Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any amendments to the agenda? Any amendments to the agenda?
I have no amendments to present.
Okay, we don't have any amendments. I have a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Mr. Payne. Got a second from Ms. Davis. All in favor of adopting the agenda? Motion passed. Thank you very much. Lisa, recognition of achievements and awards.
Good evening, Mr. President, Mr. Superintendent, and members of the board. I am pleased to recognize many outstanding individuals from the Clarke County School District tonight. Honorees, when I call your name, please come forth, accept your certificate, and shake the board members' hands. First is the Athens System Star student. And we have with us tonight Carver Goodhue from Clarke Central High School, who is the Athens System Star student, and Mary Blackburn, his star teacher. Carver and Mary? Well, we are very proud that out of all of the different students that were recognized in Athens, public and private schools, Carver won.
Mary's there.
Great.
I'm here. I don't know where Carver is. We can start,
Well,
start shaking on this time. I get to shake.
Oh, you like, you know what?
I get to shake first this time.
Congratulations.
Well, Mary was Carver's Spanish teacher, and she said Carver Goodhue exemplifies not only the model student, but the model life learner. His intellect, curiosity, and innate desire to explore life to the fullest are only a few of the qualities that make Carver the amazing person that he is. I am truly honored and humbled that he named me star teacher. And Mary, you are so deserving. Congratulations. And next, we'd like to recognize the Skills USA Region 2 first place winner from Cedar Shoals High School, Joseph Williams, and the advisor, Anthony Smith. Joseph and Anthony, thank you. Yes, you have a certificate, absolutely.
Good job. Congratulations.
And we would also like to congratulate our first place FBLA regional winner from Clarke Central High School, Amber Richardson, and advisor Cynthia Williams.
Congratulations. God bless you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations.
And next we'll recognize our Helen Ruffin Reading Bowl regional winners. Helen Ruffin Reading Bowl is a quiz show style competition in which teams of 5 to 10 students in grades 4 through 12 answer questions on the 20 Georgia Book Award books for elementary and middle schools, or 20 Georgia Peach Award books for high school. 3 Clarke County schools won the regional competition. Clarke Middle and Hillsman both tied for first place, and Clarke Central won first place for the high school division. All 3 teams advanced to the Division II championships, and Hillsman Middle won the state title for the second year in a row. And tonight we will recognize the Clarke Central and Hillsman teams, and Clarke Middle will be able to join us next month. So from Clarke Central High School, do we have Casey Tedder, the coach, and the team here? Okay. I'm going to list the students' names, and in case any of them are here, please come up and receive your certificate. Jamie Corius, Claire Dunn Grand Prix, Faith Farber, Mariah Isbell, Thomas Jimenez, Evan Newman, Shimobi Obajuru, Sarah Tonks, and Amy Wagner. And now, from Hillsman Middle School, we will recognize the state winners. So they were district championships, they were regional co-champions, Division II champions, and again, state champions for the second year in a row. And students at Hillsman are here tonight to receive a variety of awards. So when I call these students up, I'll have several things to share about many of them. First, Lauren Chen.
We haven't seen Lauren or Lynn
Well,
right now.
okay, Lauren and Lindsay. Brett Frazier. Alex Hobbs.
Congratulations.
Zach Holland. Zach was also on the Page Academic Bowl regional winning team and Map Counts regional championship team, and he qualified for the state geography B. Way to go, Zach. Owen Schmidt.
You almost got it.
Almost got it. I'm gonna grab them the next time.
And Charlie Yee.
Good job.
Charlie is also being recognized this evening for being on the Map Counts regional winning team and placing first in Map Counts regionally. So congratulations for winning that individual award as well. And of course, their coach, Leslie Gonzalez.
We're very proud of you.
Thank you so much. Great job.
Great job. Thank you. Very impressive.
And as I mentioned, Hillsman also won the Page Academic Bowl Regional Championship, and so we have some more students to recognize for that honor as well. Lionel Banks. Sarah Goody. Abu Jadhav. And he also won third state honors in junior division at the science fair. He investigated the effects of various carbohydrates and sugar substitutes on the metabolism of yeast, and he was on the Map Counts regional winning team, so several awards there. Jeffrey Mon. Jeffrey was also on the Map Counts regional winning team and placed second individually in Map Counts, and he won fourth state honors at the science fair in the junior division. He tested the recoverability of files deleted with regular deletion versus a secure deletion algorithm. John Oates and Daksh Patel. And the coach, Jean Giannossi.
Like being a quick start.
This.
Thank you so much for all you do.
And we have more state science fair winners and regional winners as well. And we'll recognize the Clarke Middle School students next month. They were unable to come this evening. But for Hillsman, we also have Rachel Hoover, and she tested makeups and lotions with sunscreen in them and compared their effectiveness versus classic sunscreen brands. And from Cedar Shoals High School, Angelina Choi won first state honors in the senior division. She also won the U.S. Forest Service Award for Best Integration of Social and Physiological Studies. She was in the senior division top 10 project in the state, so she was in the top 10 out of 800. And yeah. And Angelina is a ninth grader and already is excelling at this level. She tested a biosand filter over a period of time to see if its effectiveness would increase. The purpose of this project was to find a filter effective enough for use in developing nations and/or areas of natural devastation. So way to go. And I would like to mention Angelina's brother Daniel was a recent stellar student, and when I interviewed him, he made sure to ask me, did I know Angelina, because she was kind of famous. And next, we'd like to recognize from the Science Fair Awards, Claudia Gaither, also from Cedar Shoals. And Claudia examined the effect of skin pigmentation on UVB absorption.
Congratulations.
Great job.
Chens. Okay, let's go back. We have Lauren and Lindsay Chen with us, and they received a variety of awards. They're from Hillsman, and so we'd like to call them up together. Lauren, in addition to being on the Helen Ruffin Reading Bowl State Championship team, was also on the Page Academic Bowl Regional Winning Team and won second state honors junior division at the State Science Fair. And she and her sister share share all of those awards. And Lauren was also math counts on that team and won third place individually.
Congratulations.
And they also won the UGA Physics and Astronomy Department Award at the junior level. And they experimented with the magnetic buoyancy force of a non-magnetic object submerged in a ferromagnetic fluid in a magnetic field. Way to go. Wow. Okay, next from back to Cedar Shoals, we have Jack Shramsky, who won 4th State Honors Senior Division. And Teresa Venzel, 3rd State Honors Senior Division. And next we'd like to recognize the Math Counts Regional Champions and State Runner-Up Championship Team. And we don't have any students left to recognize because they all won other awards already. But we do want to bring up their coach, Sharif Bacchus. And we also want to mention that in addition to winning the regional team competition, again, they captured the top 3 individual places. So it was really a Hillsman sweep. Thank you, Coach Bacchus.
Keep up the good work, young.
And next, we would like to recognize our regional spelling bee winner, Theron Camp from Barrow Elementary School. And come on up. Is Theron here? Well, again, not only did he win our district spelling bee, he won the regional spelling bee. So we're very, very proud of that accomplishment. And I did want to mention this quote from the paper. Another student who competed against him said, "He was smoking me. He was really above my level, even though he's 3 grades lower. He was just smoking." So great job. And next, we'd like to recognize the Georgia Academic Team Association Varsity Regional 8-5A winner. And again, they won first place, and they defeated teams from Appalachia and Flowery Branch. And of course, these are our Cedar Shoals Varsity Quiz Jags. And first, we'd like to call up Abby Campbell. And Abby was also on the JV Quiz Jags team, which won the state championship. Again, back to the Quiz Jags Regional Championship team, Brian Heredia. Jose Heredia. And Evan Knox.
Congratulations.
And again, as I mentioned, when Abby received her award, the JV Quiz Jags won the state 5A championship. And this was the first ever state title for academic team in Cedar Shoals history. Wow. The team went 3-2 in the preliminaries, losing a close match to eventual number 1 seed Dunwoody before going 3-0 in the playoffs, defeating teams from Southwest DeKalb, Sequoia, and Ola High Schools. So we'd like to recognize the rest of the team. Claudia Davis. Yang Fang. Serena Mon. Grace Yu. And of course their coach, Robin Richards.
Oh, I am so sorry. Congratulations.
Thank you for your dedication and hard work.
Before I move on to the 4-Star Employee Awards, did we have any students that came in after we started doing awards? Okay, well, we'll go ahead and do our 4-Star Employee Awards, and then perhaps we can catch up with some of the ones who haven't come in yet. Yes. Okay, now our 4-Star Employee Awards, and again, any parent, student, colleague, anyone can nominate Clarke County School District employees for these awards. And first we have Lori Crawford, who is a teacher at Whit Davis Elementary School, and she was nominated for this award by her colleague Colquitt Slover. And Lori is a 5th grade teacher, and here is what the nomination had to say. I worked with Mrs. Crawford numerous years ago, and her professionalism and work ethic was the model for what it takes to be a successful teacher. I worked as Lori's para for 2 years while I finished my degree. She mentored and took time out of her busy day to explain and model what it takes to be a successful teacher. Through her example and leadership, I found a job, and I am proud to say I am a Clarke County teacher. I could not have accomplished my goals without Mrs. Crawford's example. Congratulations. Next is James Schuler. He's a field support technician at the H.T. Edwards campus, Clarke Middle School, and Outstart Elementary School, and he was nominated for this award by H.T. Edwards teacher Carrie Fisher Sigmund. And here is what she had to say about James. In a teaching and learning environment that relies on high-functioning instructional technology resources, we are extremely lucky to have James as our field support technician. James responds to help desk tickets the same day they are submitted, which is quite often. Sometimes he responds in less than an hour. James always provides explanations for what the issue is and how he went about solving it. In this way, he is teaching us how to be better troubleshooters ourselves, which helps build our competence and confidence in working with technology for teaching and learning. He is always kind and never makes you feel like your issues are foolish or without reason. His efforts to stay on top of his help desk tickets help my classroom run more efficiently on a daily basis, and I truly appreciate his work. He is a 4-star employee, and his efforts should be recognized as so. Congratulations, James. And next is Rodney Robinson, who works in security at Clarke Central, and he was nominated for this award by his colleague Mary Blackburn. And Ms. Blackburn had to say, Mr. Robinson goes above and beyond his responsibilities as a security guard at Clarke Central High School. He helps diffuse problems before they escalate. He works for free after school with students. He mentors students and genuinely cares about students, and we're so lucky to have him. Congratulations. Thank you. And finally, Carrie Yawn, a 2nd grade teacher at Barrow Elementary, who was nominated by her colleague, Abby Brink. And here's what Ms. Brink had to say. There are so many reasons why Carrie Yawn deserves the honor of being awarded a 4-star award by Clarke County. As a member of the same grade level team, I have the opportunity to work with Carrie on a daily basis. She serves as our fearless leader, willing to be assertive and proactive while remaining tactful and respectful for our team. Not only does she serve Barrow School on leadership, but she has many other areas in which she gives of her talents, ranging from boosting staff morale on the Sunshine Committee to helping rebuild our school on the SPLOST Committee. She is fun, well-organized, and dedicated to the learning of all students. As a mama of one of her former 2nd graders, I can attest to the impact her teaching and caring have on her students. The citizens of Yawnville love their teacher, and they know that they are loved in return. Thank you, Ms. Yawn. I'll ask one more time, did we have any other students come in? Yang Fang, come on up. And Yang was on the Cedar Shoals High School JV Quiz Jag State Championship team.
Thank you so much.
Great job. Thank you. Great job. Great work. Congratulations.
Again, thank you and congratulations. This is why we are all proud to be CCSD.
Absolutely.
If all of the award recipients can hang on for about 2 minutes,
Sure.
our superintendent.
And again, I want to echo certainly on behalf of the Clarke County community at large for the dedication and work of both of our students and our teachers and our advisors and our support staff. Every time we do this, you bring us to new heights, and you brought us to new heights again today because you've broken new ground that we haven't been before in terms of academic performance. The nice part about this is that we get to know what you do, but they know what they do in the greater county, and they know what you do in the state of Georgia, and they're getting to know what you do nationally. And I think that speaks tremendous volumes for the work of our total community in this kind of celebration. So I just want to say thank you from all of us.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move the agenda. Have one change. I'm going to move up the recognition of visitors above the superintendent's report because he has a lengthy report. Don't want to keep you waiting. We have two speakers this evening. I need to read a statement before you come to the mic. I'll wait until they clear the room. Go ahead.
I think so.
We got some buzzing going on.
Yeah, we got some buzzing.
All right. How many times?
Be sure to send me an invitation to your retirement.
We'll all get back to the discussion.
He been around for a while. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move the agenda. Recognition of visitors. I need to read a statement before you speak. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. A yellow caution card will appear when 1 minute remains. A red card will appear when time expires. At this point, please conclude your remarks. No speaker should indulge in personal attacks while speaking. All comments are to be addressed directly to the Board of Education. Personal concerns may be addressed in writing to the superintendent or the president of the Board of Education. Dr. Spangler is our timekeeper, and as I stated, we have two speakers this evening. The first one, Aurelia Scott, Milestones in History Commemoration Committee presentation. Ms. Aurelia Scott.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Superintendent Lanou, President Worthy, Clarke County School Board members, colleagues. I started to say winners in this room. Everybody's a winner. Colleagues and friends. Around July 19th, I don't know the exact day, we introduced a recommendation to the school board, but we expanded it. Now is the time to celebrate the accomplishments of some very special people. The accomplishments of Samuel Wasden Wood, is one that I want to talk about first. His tenure here was a progressive period, and he began by being the principal at Athens High School. Then he became the supervising principal at Athens Public Schools, and then he became the superintendent in 1956. Now, during his 13-year tenure in Athens, Clarke County, the district constructed 11 new schools. They were built and they were occupied. The existing facilities were enhanced. There were additional classrooms built, libraries, cafeterias, physical education, complexes, cafeterias, and the multi-million-dollar, at that time I think it was $1 million, development of Athens Vocational Technical School. Under his guidance, the Clarke County School District, in compliance with the Civil Rights Act of 1964, became the state's first school system to accomplish integration without a court order. The time was the turbulent 60s, but the road to integration in the Clarke County School District was strategically mapped out by Superintendent Wood and implemented by some courageous teachers. Parents and students also had a part. Two of the first 3 courageous African American teachers were interviewed after the formation of the Milestones in History Committee. There was no previous record before that they were first. The information in the print media about desegregation did not address the facts. They didn't mention the teachers that were in the first classes, nor did they record the integration of the Clarke County School District. And it's not complete if it does not record the work of these teachers, because these persons did reform the future. Johnny Leigh Burks, Betty Henderson Holston, and Victoria Baker Stroud were cast in predestined roles in the district. They were met with myriad challenges. They labored tirelessly for justice, and they far exceeded the expectations that people had. But at that time, Dr. Wood was called to serve these, and he called these women to serve. They were called to serve by him. They knew that the success of the Clarke County School District rested upon them, and they were examined closely both publicly and personally. But they left a legacy that still lives. And the work of these educators and this superintendent need to be recorded in history.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. The second speaker is Ms. Betty Holston on the same topic, Milestones in History Commemoration Committee. Ms. Betty Holston.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I was one of the 3 that walked into the school system in 1966. What we are asking for this afternoon is just a few things. To me, this is the best day that I've seen yet. I don't want to tell my age, but before I leave here, I want to thank Dr. Lanou and the Board of Education for giving us a listening ear, because it's been 50 plus years since this happened. We are asking that the Samuel Watson Wood Clarke County School District Superintendent, that this administration building be named from him. We're asking that Chase Street Elementary School building renamed Johnny Leigh Burks Elementary School. We're asking that Apps Road Elementary School building renamed Betty Henderson Holston Elementary School. We use the protocol of the University of Georgia, other school districts, and Dr. Lanou suggested in our model in revisiting our recommendations. 4th Street Elementary School will rename the Howard B. Stroud Elementary School for Victoria Baker Stroud included. This is a great day, as I said. I've been saying hallelujah all day. Why? because this is the first time that it has been introduced to the Clarke County School District. And I feel as though I was a part and will be a part of the history of this district. And that day, in September, I had no idea that I would be a part of the history. I was just interested in going to my school and working with the school district and teaching children. And we are thinking of a time in 1966 when there were no hospitals. For our hospitals, eating establishments, everything was not open to black people. And we had to work through this time with the children of both races. Thank you so very much. Thank you for listening to me. And please consider us. If you don't consider anything else, thanks for hearing us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move the agenda. We're down to you, Dr. Lanou, Superintendent's report.
And in my report this evening, I have 3 items. One is the SPLOST performance audit, which I will turn over to Ted Gilbert and David Stubbs. First item, though, I would like to thank all of our principals and their staff and HR for the job fair that occurred on Saturday. It was a beautiful day, and they were there from 7:30 to 12:30, close to 1. We had over 200 candidates that were there, and another 50 candidates for something new, which was an internal job fair where individuals could look within the district to see if there are other opportunities for them. And I think that was a really good start for us because we've never done that before. And the feedback that we got, it was nice that they were able to talk with teams without having a lot of other people or wait in line because it was just for the county. So again, I think people appreciated that they could have a face-to-face conversation, connect face to names and talents and interest. But that morning was a lot of organization, and I just applaud those that committed their time to being there. This is a pretty hectic schedule. I'd also like to make a note that we did present to the State Board of Ed on Friday. What a terrific team we have. Just to let you know, we just have a terrific team. We brought down teachers and district coaches, Glenda Huff and Andy Plemons and Mike Hussain from Hillsman. Just some extraordinary professionals, just like we have many in the district. But our goal at the state board was to talk about the longitudinal data system, to talk about how we're going to begin to introduce digital resources both locally here as we're piloting this project, of the potential of bringing digital resources across the state in a way that's never been fashioned before. But I think in front of the state board, when I just watched the board respond to the litany of work that's been done and the different kind of work that we're doing digitally, it was quite refreshing. And of course, the comments from Barbara Hampton, the chair, were very, very complimentary and should have been. So if you can see the video stream, watch that. I think it'll bring a smile to all of us. And that's why we put into the packet for information, that is the state board's plan. We can post that. You can see that the work that we're doing aligns to their work. The State Department really doesn't want to push out the agenda. They want to make sure the agenda works, which is with us, and that the district leads the way. And we were noted at the Superintendent's Association by the state today, in fact, this morning, about piloting this work. So I am just real pleased with the direction and the fact we had that opportunity. I think I'm going to stop because I think right here, can we take a break on my report for an award? What do you think, Anissa? We do. No, wait, wait, we were a little early. See, you're part of my report.
Claudia Davis was on Falls JV State Champion.
We need to have Claudia please come here,
Find that
please.
Absolutely. I know.
Congratulations, your coach has your certificate. She took all the extras.
Congratulations.
This is so great. We were gonna let you out of the room. No, you got things, so we're good. It's so good.
Great job. Congratulations.
Yeah. See, that's a nice break with the superintendent. Gosh, we gotta have those more often. And now I'm gonna turn it over in terms of the presentation on the performance audit. This is not an action item, but it's information, chance to ask questions. David Stubbs? Sure.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We annually do the SPLOST performance audit, as you know, and I've been here, this is my 5th year, so it'll be my 4th audit. Again, as you have this document in your hands, but the important piece, as it is always in these statements, is in the last sentence. It says that we have complied in all material respects with the requirements. We're very proud of that. We have a lot of energy involved in that. Dana Schreiner needs to be recommended for doing a great job and making sure $20 million is a lot of money to be managed. And one of the comments that we received from the committee was they were amazed that one person is signing every document that goes through, and they were pleased to see that. One of the comments they also made is they were supporting us for things that may be coming in the future, items that we may need to produce as documents as they do our next financial reviews and our audits. And we, in fact, are doing the things that they see being the items that need to be documented. We just hadn't brought those to the table that day because we didn't know that we had to. But they were pleased in terms of their review. Their questioning this year was far more detailed than it's ever been. We were challenged, and I like that. The good news is we had the answers, and we had the documents to show them. So, in short, there's a lot of work behind this. There's a lot of documentation. There's a lot of energy every day to get it right. But in short, we have provided all the resources and documents, and we successfully got a good grade, I guess you would say. Questions, perhaps?
Any questions for Mr. Stubbs, or board members?
Sounds like you need to nominate Dana for a 4-star award.
Yeah, she should.
2012, right? And so we'll be getting another one this time for
Yes, usually in
2013.
in the fall we will submit RFPs or RFQs for the work to be done, and usually we start that in January, so that will be for the 2013 year.
Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Hub.
So I remember voting for this particular firm to conduct the audit. So we're actually paying them for the audit for us. It's an in-house audit, and it's not. I mean, does this go to someone at the state or that sort of thing, or it's just in-house?
It's an in-house audit, but the state does, when they come, it's almost a parallel information that they have as well.
Performance audit also is a requirement of state statute.
Yeah. This was a law that was passed some years ago in the legislature that they would have to do the SPLOST auditing. And I'm just happy to say that we have great people doing our SPLOST work, and that we have never had nothing but an excellent report. I think this is the 4th one, isn't it?
It's the 4th for me, but we have a history behind me.
I think it's about 9 years or so.
Yes.
Something like that.
So every year it's been great. So I'm very happy that we've got competent people doing our construction and managing our construction and managing your money.
Okay. Any further questions for Mr. Stubbs? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Levin?
And again, as I want to thank David and certainly that team, But also, again, before I close out, would like to remind you is to review that we gave you electronically the state plan for technology, because I think you'll definitely see the parallels, you'll hear the language, but it's an aggressive plan, it's a good plan. Just a reminder, on April 22nd, the State Department will be here with a joint meeting with the University of Georgia. That will be at Stroud Elementary from 1 to 4. If you want to get not a glimpse, you'll get a full look at the SLDS and what this teacher resource link and learning object repository all means.
That's on April 24th?
April 22nd. It's not was a board function, it's something we were doing, but I would like to invite you to be there as a guest. Okay, we'll put it on the calendar.
Thank you.
And that ends my report.
Thank you, Dr. Lanu. We're going to go ahead, we're down to item E. Mr. Payne, you have a GSBA report?
No, I've got a statement I want to make to the superintendent.
Okay.
I was so happy that you were able to enforce what I told the state school superintendent and the board members that I had lunch with in November about this great school district. I just was praising it, and when they came down here, so I got a call the other night. They said, Mr. Payne said, you was on top of it. Yeah. So I'm so happy that they listened to me, and you all was able to prove what I said was true when they came here.
Well, thank you. We also have a small team with Dr. Michael Buck. They'll be joining us on Monday for 2 or 3 hours as we talk about our work. So we're real pleased to have them and the chief of staff here on Monday.
Okay.
My GSBA report is very short. I'm hoping that all of you was able to keep up with the legislative reporting by Angela Palm. Did you see that on your email? Much of the legislation, I was up there at Twin Towers before the legislation started in December, and they were going over some of the things that they thought was coming down the pipe. But many of the things that they was afraid of did not happen. School teachers and parents cannot fire superintendents and school principals. That legislation never materialized. Going back to election of superintendents, that legislation never came down the pike. So we were able to do all that we always do in order to make sure that we cannot stop the legislation, but we can improve it and make it a little bit palatable for the people of Georgia, and we are proud of that. The other thing that I gave you the list, and I hope that you read it. But I want to add to that is that the Secretary of Education, Ani Duncan, one of the things that he reported at our annual meeting in Washington, D.C. was the fact that one youngster is killed in South Chicago every week. Every week. And the other thing that he has been pushing for a couple of years, charter schools. This time he had modified his statement because he had been superintendent. He's been in various districts throughout America. And one of the things that he found that there are good public schools who are closing the achievement gap. And there are a good charter schools. And a lot of the charter schools are failing. Most of the progressive schools in America are public schools. And he made that statement at our national meeting in Washington, D.C. So I want you to be apprised of that. Dr. Lanu, as long as you continue with Dr. Price and the wonderful staff and the excellent teachers we have in Clarke County, we'll always be ahead of the curve.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. One thing I want to remind you, Mr. Payne mentioned about parents and teachers having the power through some legislation that didn't go anywhere. That's that trigger bill. It's coming back next year. It'll come back.
Well,
it's coming back.
Okay.
I just want to make you aware of that. Okay, item F, action items. We're down to the previous meetings. We had a regular meeting, a call meeting, and I'm quite sure you reviewed them. I'll entertain a motion. Moved by Mr. Payne. Got a second from Dr. Spangler. Any questions pertaining to the minutes? Any questions? All in favor? Thank you very much. Motion passed. Financial report.
Recommend approval.
Recommendation from the superintendent on the financial report. Hopefully you've reviewed that. Need a motion? Moved by Mr. Huff, seconded by Ms. Williams. Any questions pertaining to the financial report? Any questions? Okay, all in favor? All righty. Ms. Thornton, did you, okay, all righty, I didn't see your hand, thank you. Motion passed unanimously. Okay, consent agenda,
Recommend approval of the consent agenda.
recommendation from the superintendent on the consent agenda. Moved by Mr. Payne, need a second. Second from Ms. Davis, all in favor? Thank you. Okay,
Recommend that the list of policies, exhibits, and regulations so listed be placed on the table for 4 weeks.
okay, the recommendation from the superintendent on these policies and regulations to be placed on the table for 4 weeks. Need a motion. Moved by Ms. Thornton, seconded by Mr. Huff. All in favor? Thank you very much. Okay. Item 18.
Item 18 is not an action item tonight, but it will be an action item at a called meeting next Thursday at 6 o'clock. At this point, I will go through a presentation. It is very similar to what we've had before, but it's an opportunity to again see it with some slight changes. But this will be presentation voted on a tentative budget for next week.
18. That's it, okay. That's on the calendar. That's on the calendar.
Yes, yes.
You know I love these. So please, check in with,
He's standing in the right position, right?
see, this is nice. The awards just kind of sprinkle in throughout the
Yeah.
meeting. They
Wonderful.
bring great joy,
Just wonderful.
especially before the budget. It's great.
I was about to say, anything to slow this one down.
We have Raj Patel here from Hillsman. He was on the Page Academic Bowl Regional.
Please.
Congratulations to the coach. How's your thing at? Okay, you can get this one.
Keep up a good work, young man.
Congratulations, good job.
Great work, proud of you. Good job.
Slow it down,
Yeah.
you're going too fast, mom's not ready.
Do you need a picture with the superintendent? We can send him over to pose. She get. What'd you need? She didn't get her
Thank-
camera out in time. Let's see if they want a picture. She didn't get her camera out before.
Would you like a picture?
Yeah, all right.
We aim to please.
Absolutely. Right here. Right
Stand with the
right
superintendent.
here. Right here. How's this? Okay.
We promise not to give you funny ears.
Oh, that's great.
Terrific.
Makes me nervous when you see police officers start walking toward us. I was like, what's going on?
Just a little bit, I think. Yeah, that's good. But here is, can the board see it? You might have to turn it,
Yeah, I can see it.
your
Yeah,
end
turn that
in.
way.
Okay.
Yeah, your
That's
end,
better.
maybe in.
About to have it memorized at this point.
I would think so. But we got this new cart, see, so it's got a little different. How are we?
Very sophisticated.
Are we good, view? We got a good compromise for this?
Yes.
Okay,
Picked up a bit out of her chair, but she seems happy to jump up.
terrific.
Watch her though, or she won't come back.
I know.
Let me start out about the budget and a few comments. And this is not going to be new information for the board or those that have been at our work sessions. I've been very pleased with the process that we've used this year. One, to go to zero-based budgeting, which has been a whole different process of building that budget up, not from where it was before. Being able to provide the board with information earlier in this process. So this should not be a surprise. In the past, sometimes it was waiting to know what this budget was going to be as a tentative budget. But most importantly, I want to say that budgeting has been a challenge for sure. And you can read the paper this morning in the op-ed, and you can read across the state what's happening to districts. And it certainly hasn't been easy. But I will say this, that over the last 4 years, and I'm going to talk about some of those changes, I couldn't be more proud of the transformation this district has done in terms of retooling itself, knowing that the financial picture is not going to go back the way it was. And to examine every program and to refocus our energies, and after reductions of a lot of money, we are positioned ourselves, I believe, to be as strong and probably stronger than we were before, just because of the kinds of programs that we put forth and the quality. With all that said, the programs really relate to people. And my hats off are to our faculty and our staff and our school leaders and our district leaders who had to take this and reshape it in a way that was good for children. And so the work, although it's a structure plan and transformation, the work is what's happening in our classrooms, in our hallways, in the district office, in the principal's office, with our community members, with our parents, who, even though it was different, was willing to take that step with us and to change our programs. So as I present the budget today, I feel a little bit better than I did last year, rightfully so. That does not mean that the financial picture is a whole lot better, but because of our work over the last years, I think we're positioned ourselves to be financially stable, to maintain our current programs, to have quality programs, to expand programs if they're good, to not expand them, or to delete them if they're not. So with that, Mr. Gilbert and I are going to present the budget. I want to thank Larry Hamill. He could not be here. We knew he couldn't be here today. It was scheduled. But Mr. Hamill, along with Lynn Duke, who's not here, those two and Lynn from HR did just a tremendous work of getting the right information in the right hands. So with that, let's talk about our budget. But I want to talk about two particular items here that I think are significant. Because oftentimes the public hears cost per pupil because they read it off the Department of Ed website, and it's high compared to others. So what I wanted to do is to frame this a little bit in terms of how you read information. Because when we do a budget, we use procedures where we track all of our expenditures. Now, some of those expenditures are reimbursed by other means, and I'll give you a good example. Our transportation budget typically is about $1 million over what we budgeted. But the reason is that we take in $890,000 from people paying for field trips or Title I. So really, what we're simply doing is offsetting that cost. So rather than offsetting in that category, we show a revenue and then we show it as an expenditure. But in actuality, they were on target and on budget. But so we make it clear that we show every expenditure, and if we're getting reimbursed for something or it's not part of tax dollars, we show it on the revenue side. Now here's two particular items. When you go to the DOE report, and I'll ask Ted if you want to fill in any gaps, you're going to see some pretty big figures here. So FY 2011, you see 140 million. 2012, 138, 2013. This yellow means it's projected. We're not sure what's going to show up, but it's going to be somewhere around that. So when you do a cost per pupil, you're going to get terms like 11,800, 11,600, and a little over 11,000, which is terms that you hear in the paper a lot. They're paying $11,000 a student. In actuality, in this pot are federal dollars that we can't use to operate the district. They are used specifically to support students because of our population. Title I and those federal dollars are figured into this amount, but those are not dollars that we can use to operate our district. They have to be different. They have to specifically support the students of which they're targeted. So what we did is, let's take a look at this group here. These are actual expenditures. And this is the money that we call our Fund 100. This is the money that comes from our taxes, our ad valorem tax, and comes from the QBE from the state. Those two are the major pots, and some of the reimbursements like for transportation, interest, and some of those miscellaneous revenues. This is not from federal money. This builds our operational budget, because that's what Fund 100 is. If you will notice in FY11, our cost per pupil was just over $10,000. In FY12, our cost per pupil was $10,200. So you go, what's the difference between there and there? That's the difference between federal dollars per student that are used for specific reasons. In FY213, we're tracking that our cost per pupil has gone from $10,002 to $9,500 per student. Quite a significant reduction in our local money. We're projecting $11,000 with federal money, but we're not sure, but it will be somewhere around that. You may also see charts that show our expenditures at $150 million. And you go, how did you get that? Well, that's because in that amount of money is federal reimbursements for hot lunch, for example, and some other programs that come through the system. So you may see expenditures on that side, but that takes all the money. The point here is, this is how much we spend, $9,584.42 are projected based on our current track, because we haven't finished 2013, of using our local operational dollars. It's called Fund 100. Questions? I thought it was important to create that context. Now the next one is that you've seen, and this is a graph. I have to shrink that one just a little bit, Ted. Yeah. One more. Yeah, do one more. Okay, sorry, we're going to get this. And I'm going to move it over just a little bit. Okay, I think that'll do it. Here's what this means. And I'm going to go for me because that's as far back as it goes, 2009, when I arrived anyway, and so I don't have all of that history, only in numbers. But right here, there are 3 lines that you see. And the 3 lines, the blue line is, let me talk about that. And I can't see the exact, I think it's around 122 million, Ted? 122 million. What that means is in 2009, our budget was 122 million. That was our budget, that's how much we spent. We keep talking about all these add-ons that we don't have control of. Health insurance, TRS increases, step increases. These are increases we have absolutely no control. You have to put them in. So what we did in this case is to said, okay, let's keep our $122 million budget, and if we kept everything the same, and we didn't even account for inflation, for fuel, or etc., just to keep all of our operating the costs the same, how much would it cost us if we had the same program? How much would it cost us with all these add-ons? If we kept our same program and just added all those extra costs from the state, our budget would be right there. It would be just under 136 million. Sorry, I can't see those numbers quite exactly. So our budget, if we had done nothing, would have been 136 million if we just kept our program as the way they were. So now let's track another line. So keep your eye on that one. Let's track another line. Let's track our actual expenditures of our budgets. And you'll notice in this red line, we've been pretty fortunate that our actual expenditures are a little bit less. But now here's your tracking down. In 2010, we had to make some cuts. You'll notice that in 2011, 2012, we paralleled the slope. So pretty much we kept our programs and added on some insurance, but we tried to keep it in check. And then, you know, last year when we built this budget, this is where we were at 100 and, what did we put in, 113, 115? 116 was the actual expenditures. That's what we're tracking right now. And the proposal budget we have is right there, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. It's 120 million. But all of the expenditures are only relative to how much money you get in. How much money did we take in as the district? And so the gold line is how much money we've taken in. So you can see, because when we began in 2009, our fund balance was about 6 million. In actuality, once we fed out, it was probably a little closer to 11 when all was said and done and we changed over our system. But when we started here, you can see the revenues here, which is the most volatile piece. We don't control that, and that's from the QBE. That's when the governor put in cuts. That's when we started to see taxes, our grand list go down. But we held pretty steady. Here was our revenues. So you can see right here, we were adding to our fund balance. And we knew that if we didn't add to our fund balance somewhere along the way, we were going to be in trouble. And so even though our revenues were higher in here and in here, we said we need to have a robust fund balance because austere times are ahead. And sure enough, then people say there's always a 2-year lag time in the inflation. You see that what's happening to revenues? It's here. Look where it is right here. And so right at this point, we knew that we were going to see it. And now you can see the revenues cross down. Now here, we are deficit spending. And if you go to here, that's why last year was so difficult, because we had to align it closer to revenues, which we did. Now think about it. If we didn't make the large cuts we did last year, that line would have been here.
Yes.
And think what our deficit spending would have been. Tremendously large. In fact, our projections were on that trajectory, we could have potentially basically have gone broke or have to borrow dollars to run this school district within 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. So we've done a pretty good job of lining with revenues, but we're still deficit spending. We know that. Here's our budget for this year. And our budget for this year is 120, and we're roughly 16 million in revenues. So there's our gap. There's our gap. That's our deficit spending right now, and we can handle that. Our goal is to make this zero. Either it's going to get zero because this revenue is going to go up, so maybe we've got to keep this pretty flat. But to keep that flat, we have to cut money. And I'll tell you why. This point right here, see this really, right here from this line to this line, it's about $16 million. That's how much we have reduced the budget in actual programs. So since 2009, we have reduced our budget by $16 million. Those are actually programs. And if we were to reduce programs to keep it with revenue, you see this? It would probably be more like 19 million if we got this gap here. So what I'm trying to say is we look at historically, we have been responsive. We have retooled our programs. We've kept ourselves fiscally sound when other districts are not. We've projected ourselves to maintaining a fund balance, knowing that closing this gap has been primary if we're going to survive. But this work here, all the way here, between the red and the blue line, those came out of programs. And those are really not just by eliminating, those are for retooling and transforming and doing work differently. So I wanted to create that context and questions. Does it make sense? Trying to hold it.
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about our budget. Okay, you might as well quit, Ted. You've got it right there. Is that? The first thing that we did this year was to look at our strategic plan. Our strategic plan has worked well for us. It allows us to stay focused and allows us to allocate the resources where they need to be. And keeping with our goals of improving performance, eliminating the achievement gaps, to increase the graduation rate, improve post-high school readiness, increase and strengthen partnerships with families and community, and to continue to look at efficiencies and effectiveness in our organizational structure and processes. Even though I don't have those lined up one-to-one, we went through every one of those to make sure that we supported those initiatives or addressed those initiatives as part of this budget process. The highlights of this process I've already mentioned. First, it's zero-based budgeting. And let me just remind what zero-based budgeting is. We started with zero, and we built it from the floor up. Many districts, it is typical in Georgia, starts to where they were last year, and they add and subtract from the line. That can get away from you. We said, no, we're going to start, we're going to build it, we're going to rationalize it. Mr. Hamill, our new CFO, put in the budget module. You'll see that in there so that we have really, really good information to make, we think, better decisions. We did staff training on the budget module. This year we had input from our leadership team. We had discussions about what's important, what's not important. I shouldn't say not, but what can be retooled and done differently was really our question. We're no longer into what you can lose. It's how you can do work differently. But we gave our budget to all our departments and schools for review. Review of the budgets by business services in Larry's office. Mr. Hamill went through every one of those to make sure they were as accurate as could be. In his mind, we ensured all budgets provided justification or they went back. Why are you purchasing this? Yeah, I mean, and the idea of it's miscellaneous or unknown expenses would not be a good reason. We went through line item review by the administrative team. That was a good day's process. Not quite probably everyone to some degree, but the major ones we discussed at length. And reviewed staffing allotments for each school and department and has gone through that process much earlier so we can do a better prediction of staffing. Because remember, 84%, or actually probably 85% of our budget is staff. So let's talk about where we get our revenue. And we've been fortunate in the last 3 years that our revenues have been a little bit better than our predictions. But I think everyone knows in this room that we've been very conservative on our predictions. Yes. The last thing you want to do, in our mind, was to be able to predict a revenue source and then not get it. And so it always created some extra dollars. We took a little bit different approach with our revenues this year because what we said is that we're going to try to maximize and predict the highest amount of revenues. And hopefully we're right on the money. And if we're off a little bit, that's where we'll use our fund balance. But we didn't want to get in our position of reducing positions and then showing up with a fund balance because we missed revenues. We want to be a little bit more accurate. So we push those revenues as high as we think they can be. Obviously, we'd like them to be a little bit better, and they may. That's our optimism. But our optimism may just, can we get to where we thought they were going to be? We also looked at the QBE formula, and the QBE formula, of course, is what we get from the state in terms of our share based on the QBE formula. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the changes that have occurred there. And then we have other. And other means that we would get taxes for, we might get money from interest, we get money from title money for transportation. So we do get some miscellaneous amounts. We get money for E-rate. So we tried to put we put all of our income into the revenue side. And so I'd rather put it there and then show it higher on the expenditure, but it shows the flow of dollars. It's much easier to follow and it's much more clear and exact. So let's talk about property tax, and Ted certainly can fill in any gaps that I have here. But here's what you see. And this talks about our tax digest, and you can see $3,518,000,000. You can see what's happened since 2008, that the tax digest is going down. And you hear that across the state when they say revenues from collection of taxes may be down up to 30% in some areas. Well, you can see that's what's happening here. Our tax digest has decreased. Now, here's the good sign. It's to 305. They're predicting a little bit better on the tax digest, which means things are getting a little better. And I think we probably see that, at least visually. We hope that we see more buildings. We know that our millage rate is maximum. So we get, on this right here, we get 20 mills. So this right here, I just used the last 3 years, is the money that we would generate from our 20 mills that we place on taxes. You'll notice in 2011, 20 mills brought us $67.4 million, but in 2013, that drops to 64.7. So now you get the picture. We got increasing we've got increasing expenditures because of health care and other items, and we get decreasing revenues. And you'll see that plays a large part in this whole picture. Now, typically we get estimates that they're going to collect about 98.5% of taxes. So we take 98.5% of that, and what that means is that most towns don't collect 100%. There are delinquent taxes or there's something else going on. 98.5 is a really good figure, and yes, it's probably more like 99. It's very strong in Clarke County and tax collection. But we use that as a figure to be safe. And then we give back 2.5% back to the county to collect the taxes. And that's That's part of the formula. So 2.5% goes back to taxes. And this one, yeah, prior year. This, when we don't get it here, we'll pick it up over here. We say, okay, you didn't collect it all that year. These are back taxes that someone collected. And that's been about accurate, about 1.1 million in back taxes from previous year. So if we were going on the revenues, we'd be somewhere here for taxes around 63.3 million. We're going to be a little bit more aggressive. You're going to see we're actually going to go back and use this number here, a little bit higher, a little bit more aggressive, because we're being optimistic. We think it's even going to get better, and the news we're getting is that it's getting better. And we're thankful that the county's been very conservative in their predictions, because they, as well, don't want to predict something and not have it come true. So, questions? Okay. Ted, any add? Did I miss anything? No. Okay. Next. Oh, I got the slide. I got too many clickers. Okay. Oh. Okay. Is this the next one, Ted? Are you? Who's clicking? Me or you?
Sorry.
Okay. I think we're 2 ahead. Do we go back? Okay. All right. All right. So now let's talk about here's QBE. Here's where people say, and you'll read in the paper, that they're fully funding the QBE.
No.
No. They're not fully funding the QBE. The QBE had something called austerity cuts in 2002. The austerity cuts show up every year. And the austerity cuts for us is just over 8 million. So every year, they would take what originally was the QBE before 2002, and they subtract $8 million. And so if you do the math over 11 years, it's quite a bit. But that's when you hear austerity cuts, they are still there. Now, what you're going to see here is we believe that we're going to be pretty rough. This is how much we earn on our sheet. We get $47 million from the state in the QBE formula, 47.1. We then get a midterm adjustment. Now, 3 years ago, that midterm adjustment often, Ted, went down. And in fact, before we presented the budget 2 years ago, that amount went down $2 million the day we were to present a budget that we already put together and we're ready to approve. So we're much more stable with this, and in fact, we're real pleased that our adjustment came up that we're going to get roughly about $700,000 more in the adjustment for second semester. And that's because of the people. They take our counts and they use EIP and the formulas they put in. So the good sign is we're going to get more money than we thought at the beginning of the year. And that midterm adjustment actually is $794,546. So that helped us. That put more money in our pocket. But again, most of that money is still trying to balance the deficit spending. So it's not money we can go take and use somewhere. It just means it's closing the gap. What's good about it, here's our student count, which is 12,097. That's a little higher than it was before. We were around 11,000 something, 800 in previous years. So we know that the state has funded enrollment increases. So that's again a plus sign for QBE. We also found out, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, that the austerity cuts, which were about 8 million, the governor is looking to reduce that, even though there's going to be some balancing expenditures, we think. But the governor is putting some more money back into schools to reduce that austerity cut from 8 million. And if we put 600,000 back, reduces that austerity cut by that amount. So that's money we can add to our revenues. But we still put that all together, and we're still deficit spending. And we're going to show you in just a minute. Okay? Next. I got it, Ted. I got it. All right, now, Ted, you might have to explain this if you can see it. But by the way, and we'll explain it. This is how the state gives us the money. This is what happens.
The dollars that Dr. Lanou just shared, if you could see it, I'm sorry, it's small, but it's right here. That's the net dollar amount that we get. This is the midterm, unofficial midterm. We're counting on this for next year. But just to give you a brief summary of how this works is we earn, based on our FTE or student count, we earn salary and operations dollars. That, in this case, totals to about $72 million. That's if we just receive the earnings. The formula, though, says that every district should contribute 5 mils in local property tax before we begin to get funded by QBE. So we are reduced by about $17 million. Now, that's not really a reduction. That's the formula. It's what happens each year to every district. This, then, is the net amount that we receive. And if right in this area there's a number of $8.5 million, that's the austerity reduction that Dr. Lanu talked about. Below that, we get about $1 million for transportation. It covers 73 drivers, or a portion of 73 drivers. That's what they allocate. We actually have about 150 to 160 drivers. And then we have some nursing money and a categorical grant of about $200,000. That's what makes up the $47+ million that we get from the state. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I
Yes,
have
sir.
a question, but it may be for the sake of the audience and me also being televised tonight to go a little bit deep into that FTE count, the student count, especially acronym full-time equivalents, and explain that.
I will. It's again, on the left-hand side, you'll see that there's various categories of students. We begin with kindergarten program, our regular kindergarten students, regular education, and then we have early intervention program students, those that require additional assistance. You'll then go into primary grades, 1, 2, or K all the way through 5th grade, and those are also in various categories. You then move into middle and high school students, the counts there, and also the remedial help that's needed for those. And as students are categorized needing that support, we'll find that we earn those dollars the following year. There's always a lag of a year. You then get into some FTE count for those enrolled in vocational programs, and then this section right through here are the various categories of special education. And again, what happens there is that the dollars from the state participation follows the students with the needs, so the support is there for those students. There's various other, there's remedial here, there's gifted, there's ESOL for those students that need that support, and then you'll see some indirect cost that help support the operational needs of the district. These counts, by the way, the student count is done in October, there's another one in March, and there's a formula that produces our earnings based on combinations of 3 subsequent or consecutive FTE counts that produces these formulas. I will say that in general, I believe this goes back to 1985, most of these schedules that create the dollars. And overall, it's about 45% of our total revenue for the district that comes from the state. Mr. Worthy, did that answer what?
Yeah, well, I just want to make sure that people understand that FTE full-time equivalents, and I think you explained it.
And I think also know that schools, you can't run a school on what the QBE gives us. Those are submittal. There's a lot of positions that aren't in there that are considered to fund locally. Also, the amount that we get for teachers is at a rate far less than what we pay them, just because of the scale, because they don't pay for teacher step increases anymore. And we also do give local supplements, which most districts do, to make our salaries competitive. So again, I think you're right. It is about 45% of our budget.
Yeah, and, but you know, I mean, that's misleading to a lot of people whenever you said it's 45%. Whenever QBE was initiated in 1975, the state was supposed to pay 60%, and we would pay 40%. And so 45%, you see that we are paying the other 15%.
Right. And you're
So
going
it's not fully funded.
Yeah, and you're going to see some other cost shifts, and it'll explain why these. When you go back, think of that blue line that I had that was 136 million. If we didn't do anything just by add-ons, you'll see where that comes from. We do get some other revenue. I already told you about this. In transportation, So if our transportation budget is over by close to $1 million, it's not coming out of the taxpayers. It's coming out of schools putting money in for trips and asking to do the bus to St. Simon Islands or to the 4-H camp or to Atlanta or to some activity. That money gets put back in the coffers here, but we show it as an expenditure. We also get federal funds when we run after-school programs, Saturday academies. Many of those transportation runs are paid for by Title I, and so that's part of that income as well. We also had E-rate, and that deals with technology. We get a certain amount off to the cable companies, rate off our cable companies, but it's we put that in there this year. This is $350,000. And that goes really toward technology, but right now we show a technology full expenditure, and it's offset by E-rate. Here's the one that's probably pretty amazing in this time, that usually our interest income, because it's millions that we invest, that we hold our money. We collect all of our money in October, November, and December, and we hold that money, and we spend that money down as we go through the year. We had a pretty good rate. We used to earn somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 a year in interest, which was, it still wasn't a high percentage, but now they don't give you much for money. Our interest income this year is the best we could do with all around is collecting $15,000 a year. So some good news in there, not so good news there. So we lost what, 300,000 there, something like that.
So what do you want interest 12%?
I'd like interest to go to 12% and interest when you take a loan to be 1%, but it just doesn't seem to work that way. I mean, that would be the best thing. Here's a real interesting one, and this is really an estimation on probably about as little of information as we have, but we think it's there. That the new House Bill 386 basically eliminates the birthday tax on your car. Remember, every time you get your birthday, I would get a fee for my cars to register them. But also, when you bought a car, you paid sales tax. Now, when you paid sales tax on your car, that went into the SPLOST account. That's how we capture. We get a percentage that would go to SPLOST, and that goes to our buildings, but it never could go to operations. The new House Bill 386 says in this transition is that when you buy a car, you won't pay sales tax. However, when you go to get it registered, you're going to pay 6.75% car tax, ad valorem tax.
Yeah.
So that tax is shifted really from what it used to go to SPLOST account now over to the tag tax, which now can be used for operations. So we think we'll gain money from that, but it's all going to be a wash because that money will also be less in SPLOST than we predicted. So it really allows that dollars, it goes from SPLOST into operations. But we decided to capture that because remember, we're trying to maximize what our revenues are going to be because we want to hit it right on the money, so to speak. That's about as much as I know about House Bill 86. So someone would have to look that up. So here's our revenue projections and outlook when we put it all together. When we put it all together, and this is what we budgeted, we were very conservative, but we were looking in FY13 of $110 million as revenue. We're actually going to do better than that this year. I think we're probably going to do about $4 million better. But our model's all been be very conservative because you don't know what's going to happen in that field. When you look at our budget, we thought, well, maybe our revenues would go up to $113 million if we put all this together. That's transportation fees, ad valorem, and QBE. But that was predicated that the tax digest would go down 2%. And so we're being really safe there. I mean, we've expected the tax digest 2 years ago to go down 8%. So that's been a pretty, not volatile, but it moves. We've decided that we're going to have the tax digest stay the same as it was. And early predictions are that actually may come true. We first thought it was going to go down 2%, then they said 1%, and now said we might collect the same amount of taxes as last year. So that's the figure we're going to use as revenue, 116,402. Now, if you remember, if we kept everything the same without changing program in 2009, our expenditures would have been 135 million. You can see the gap. That's why we had to change. Now, these are the add-ons. And I'm going to try to see if I can explain this because it does get a little complicated. And I think this is what people have difficulty understanding is how much it costs for health care. And if you, those that have been in certain businesses, total compensation. How much does it cost for us for employees? The biggest addition over the last 4 years has been the increased cost in our share for health care. And let me put it point blank, the total cost in health care for us has increased a lot. And in fact, 13% of our total budget goes to health care. 13% of our total budget, if not more, goes to paying health care. When you look at this year, we found out that certified, that's teachers, certified staff, that the health care, our portion just this year is going to go up $428,000. And the reason is that it used to be $912 a month. Now, let's imagine this for our certified employee. This year, for each certified employee, the district will pay $11,000 a person for certified staff. So do that times 1,000. Do the math. So when someone says total compensation, that's what our share is well over $11,000. But we used to pay $912 a month per person. It's now going up to $945 a month. And we believe that on January 1, it may go up to $1,016 a month. But we budgeted for it, and it's going to be an increase. But there's our increase for certified health care. The other piece, so we know we think it's going to go up another $338,000 again in second term. The one that we've known about that has been large is classified. Bus drivers, custodians, support staff. We used to pay $440. In fact, it was less than that before that. But the last count, it was $446 a month per person. It has gone up to $596, and we expect that it's going to go up $150 a month for the next 2 years. So this number here we have to add $1.2 million in health care costs for certified employee for classified. We added $1.2 million this year, so $1.2 million this year, $1.2 million next year. I suspect it'll be $1.2 million more the following year, and possibly $1.2 million the following year. And I think that's what troubles us when we talk about not getting pay raises or not getting having to furlough days. One of the pieces that we've made a commitment to is to pay health care costs. We're required to pay health care costs for certified. We are not required to pay health care for classified. But as a district, and I've taken this position, I believe we need to pay health care costs for our classified staff. They're some of our lowest paid employees, hardest work employees, and we need to maintain that. But when you don't see raises in your paycheck, you're going to see we've been paying almost $2,000 a person a year in each of the last this year and will for the next 3 years. Questions? By the way, these ranges here, that's not the total cost. That this $76 to $431 a month is what the employee pays. And same up here. So you can see, if you do the math there, that there are some health insurance policies that are close to $16,000 a year. The other addition that we don't control is teacher retirement. And teacher retirement went up this year for us $505,000. So we pay for a teacher retirement out of the system over $7 million. That's our contribution for teacher retirement. And that went up from 11.4% to 12.28%. We also have what they call step increases. And step increases are required by the state, but the state does not fund the step increases. All they say is, here's what you have to pay. So certain people go up on a step increase. So some people are getting raised. That cost us $874,000.
That's all certified.
And that's all certified, by the way. Certified, that's teachers, certified staff. So what we get, as you can see, is these rising costs of things that we can't control. But let me just show a little bit of the health insurance, because that one has been the most dramatic. If we look at classified bus drivers, custodians, in 2012, we paid $296 a month, or we paid $3,500 per employee. This year, it went up to $446. We're paying $5,352 per employee to insure them. And next year, we will pay $7,100 per employee. And in 2015, it will go to $8,900. And if it keeps this trajectory, we could be high as $12,000 employee for health insurance alone. So here's where we can't, it's tough to give the raises, but we're maintaining the health coverage to keep our employees and their families healthy. And the same occurs here, not quite as steep, but you can see in FY13 it used to be $912, and that's how much it is for certified. Next year we will pay $11,300 for every certified employee. So I think you can see, and it could go as high as $12,000 in 2015, but you can see that we're not giving raises and we're giving furloughs, but we're maintaining health care. Questions?
Got one over here,
Yes.
Dr. Ledoux.
You know, I guess it was a couple of months ago, I brought up, because I had got calls from some of the classified
Right.
employees. They were concerned about their health care as far as what they're bringing home.
Right.
And I brought it back here, and you explained, well,
Right.
it was explained to me. Has anybody explained this to class? Is there something? I mean, I think if they know
Right.
why their checks are shrinking,
Right.
they won't be so. I mean, maybe I'm the only one.
No, but we have, and that's a really good point, and I'll be certainly putting that in writing, and we're getting with directors so that they go and explain and specifically this health care piece. We're going to do that this year. But again, for our classified, that's how much we're adding for our classified staff. Again, our commitment to have health care for classified.
Over here, Dr. Ledoux.
Yes, Mr. Payne.
Dr. Lanu, I don't understand why that the health care is going up so rapidly.
I can tell you.
I see they building drugstores on every corner. So somebody making money.
Here's what's happening, and I don't know all of what goes on in Atlanta, but when the premiums were this, healthcare was being subsidized by the government, by Atlanta. In other words, there was money going into the coffers for healthcare. I don't want to quote it wrong, but it was in the tune of $500 million in the good days.
You're exactly correct.
And what's happened is when the budget hit the state, that's where the money came from. And so now the Health Commission, I believe, is challenged to be self-supporting. Well, if you're going to be self-supporting, you're going to have to make up a lot of money that used to be given to you in order to do the premiums. And so what happens is that, in fact, the Health Commission wanted to, out of the House this year, wanted to raise premiums for certified to $1,016 so that they could build the reserve. And because there's some extra dollars somewhere else, the governor said, let's hold it at $945, reevaluate it, but it could go up to $1,016. But they have to be self-supporting, and where it's going to come from is in districts, unless something else happens.
No, but what I'm saying is that there needs to be some regulation to make sure that the health of the citizen is costing what we are paying.
That's probably a pretty large question asked by many. I don't have the answer to that.
Our consultants shared with us that the cost does run about $1,000 per person annually.
In the actual, yeah.
I was gonna say, we're paying $1,000 a month.
12,000.
Monthly.
Right. So, when we came into this budget, when we came into the budget, this is how we had to start. Remember I told you we're probably going to get about $116 million, right? Total revenues. We put everything together, we had 116. We zero-based budgeted and put everybody back without furloughs, just put everything in the way it was. We anticipated that would get us to 125 million. Well, if we just did that, we would have a $9 million deficit spending, which we cannot do. We cannot deficit 9 million. Our target when we started was really to try to close the deficit spending gap by at least 50%. Cut it in half, and maybe we can close it in a couple of years as we monitor expenditures and revenues. Our goal was a $120 million budget, which would give us around a $4 million spending gap, and that would have closed that gap by 56% for this year. That was our target. That's where we started from. That's where we needed to go. And so how did we get there, knowing that if everything was put back in just the way it is today, with furloughs, not furloughing, it was going to be $125 million for FY14. So here's what we said is important. First of all, we're going to maintain our class sizes. We did not change our class caps. We're going to maintain the current class sizes in our schools. We're going to maintain our current programs. There's no major programs that we're going to say we're going to eliminate or restructure. We wanted to minimize the reduction in force. If you look at the number of employees that have been released from the district due to a reduction in force, is probably well over 200 in the last several years. We said, can we maintain our workforce? And this one here is an add-on. So you said, oh, you're putting money back into the budget. Okay. We had a salary scale for our classified staff that was not fully funded in 2008. And we believe that some, because we didn't fully fund them, we've been slowly moving to get them to the scale that we wanted to in 2008. We said we're going to do it for all those employees. And that's predominantly our lowest paid employees. We're going to move them to the scale we'd hoped to get them in 2008, but couldn't at that time because of the fiscal crisis. So we're going to raise salaries for many of our lower paid employees. So here's our travels for the budget. It's very simple. Before, you used to see this program gone, that program gone, cut this position, add this position. It's not like that. We're zero-based budgeting. What we said, in order to add back the salary scale for what we call our lower paid employees, we're adding 331,000. That will move them up to the scale we'd hoped they'd be at in 2008. We're going to just do it. People talk about central office, constantly consolidating. We're going to reorganize. Mostly, we already started that process with HR, director positions. We're going to reorganize and save $678,000 out of central office functions by reorganization. The school staffing shows a saving of $972,500. And you say, well, how can you save when you said you're going to keep your class sizes? What went? When we do our staffing allocations, it's a simple number. What we found out is just the way the numbers felt that we could save a number of staff. We call them good splits, bad splits, but if we have certain fourth grade cladders, it fell nicely in our favor, and we think we can save some money there, as well as going to the 7-period schedule at the high school. We also believe we can save money there because instead of students taking 8 classes, they're taking 7. Well, if you do some math, that means less staff. However, I want to make a note here, and getting the final tallies from the high school, I'm hoping not to have any reductions in force. But there might be a few, depending how they fall at the high school, but I don't believe at this point we'll have any reductions in force at the elementary, and we will not have any at the middle, and it just depends about what courses are going to be offered at the high school. and we'll know that in another week.
In other words, we'll do all that through attrition.
Pardon?
We'll do all that through attrition.
All that is through attrition. Thank you. All that, and we've already done the work, and we're already there, and we haven't seen all of the retirements yet. So this number here, what we've said is that the budget is a 365-day process. It isn't presenting it, letting you approve it, and then you move on with life and you wait to do it the next year. What we've said here is that we have to find $500,000 in savings throughout the year. What that does is it keeps us focused on retooling and changing as we move through the year, but that's our goal. And that's the responsibility of the leadership team to do that. I'm not sure, it depends, some price, if fuel oil goes up, we'll probably be in trouble, but that keeps us focused on continually looking at ways to do things different. The largest one is here. And the little bit change this year is that before we would furlough everyone 5 days who made over $3,200 a year. $3,750, I'm sorry, 37.5. We've decided this year that it was the best interest of the district that everyone is going to take 5 furlough days. And we would shut down the district. And we'd pick 5 days, we shut the district down, we save on electricity, and it's just something that we think is across the board. I know it impacts some people who have never been impacted before, but we think that's the best cost savings that we can have and creates the kinds of revenues or savings that we need. Now the only difference is here is central office administrators who make over $80,000, there's about 8 between all the whole district, are going to get an extra day. Myself, some others, we said we'll it's not a lot of money, but we're going to do an extra day ourselves of furlough, so we'll get 6 furloughs.
So you change that from 2 to 1?
It's, yeah, from 2 to 1. I sent an email. And that's what changed. I went from 2 to 1. It looks like it's the same. It's not that much savings. So this is where the money is coming from. We go to, now let me just talk about some options we had, because people go, well, why do you furlough? I've said all along that the only way we're going to save money is through people. And you're going to save money through people in a number of ways. One is you have fewer people working for you, and you cut jobs. The second is that you do something with their pay, or you do something with their benefits. Well, we haven't cut their benefits. We said those are too important. So the other thing left is it's going to impact their salary. Now, there are a couple ways to look at it. One is we could have done a 1% reduction of everyone's salary across the district. It would have been easy. Everyone gets a 1% pay cut, but that would have saved about $700,000 for every 1%. So if you do the math in there, we're talking about 4%. We decided that it wasn't in our best interest to have people work the same number of days and pay them less. At least when we furlough, you have the day off. We thought that was reasonable. And we shut down the district, and we can do that. It's much, much easier. What a lot of districts are doing is eliminating supplements. In other words, the supplement, a teacher may range from a $1,500 extra on top of the basic pay scale, by the way, which is pretty basic pay scale. And a lot of districts are eliminating those supplements, which means you're cutting their pay, same work days. We decided that was not in our best interest at this time either, because that would skew their scale for the next 5 or 6 years. It's much easier to control with furloughs. And that was the decision making that we had.
And that was going to be my question about supplements. Do we have how much are we, do we have any record how much we're paying in supplement across the board?
Now supplements, and what we call local supplements, there are 2 kinds of supplements.
Oh, okay, all right.
There's local supplements, which is how much do we add on to the salaries of teachers and certified staff. That total, I believe, is around $3.2 million between 1,000. So average about $3,000 an employee.
But that is determined by the years of experience and also our
Yeah,
degree level.
yeah. I mean, what happens is for certified staff, you get a state minimal requirement for a salary. And most districts, to make themselves competitive in that square, would add
Right.
$1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000, depending on their level of experience and where they were on their chart. But I believe it's somewhere, Ted, about, it's 3.6 million. 3.6 million of local supplements to make us competitive in hiring. Okay? I don't have the exact, on all the extracurricular supplements, I don't have that off the top of my head, but that's the local.
But because you were able to tell me, I guess you had looked at that as a budgetary cut or not cut. You
Right.
did look at.
Yeah, we looked at supplements for extracurriculars and those kinds of pieces, and decided it wasn't that much money of savings for what we could get back out of it. So we had eliminated some supplements last year, social workers, competitive supplements. We decided not to use that this year. It wasn't that large an amount. Okay? So, when you take a breakdown of our budget, here's what it looks like. Right here, salaries and benefits for all of our employees is $105,408,662. Now, mind you, we put in average numbers for salaries. That will change depending who comes and goes and experience, but that's our target. To run the district is a little over, is 19.6 million. And what does that mean? Running the district is electricity, buses, transportation, software, internet connections, everything. Everything else just to run it's your household daily budget is this amount to run all of our buildings and maintenance. So you can see, remember I gave you that figure, 125 million? If we didn't do anything, we'd be at 125 million. So now we said, okay, we had to add 331,000 for the X scale. So now it gives us to about 125.4 million. And then we deducted where we think we can save money. Central office, 678,000. School staffing allocation, 972. And by the way, there still are some positions in there to add back to schools if they overflow. Not many, but we put them in. We have 500,000 we said we're going to save as we go along. We're going to do 5 furloughs, 6 for central office administrators and save about 2.9. That's a total savings of $5 million. Though there's our restructuring money. Our budget comes out to $120,360,835, our tentative budget. How does that look as we track out trajectory? Because it's nice to be able to do this now, but what does it look like and how do we position ourselves in the district? And I've said all along, the worst thing we could do is to make decisions to put our district in financial jeopardy, period. I mean, we can't do that. As much as it hurts sometimes, we cannot put us in any fiscal irresponsibility. Right now, there is some good news in this. If you notice, the good news is we've maintained our programs, our class size, and our people, and we added some money back to our lowest paid employees, and we maintained health insurance. In this fiscal time, I think most districts would celebrate if they had that scenario in front of them. And even when we did that, I said at the beginning, we came here in 2009, we had about a $11 million fund balance, I think, when we finally said and done. Our fund balance at the beginning of 2013 is $20 million. It's sound. It's not excessive. People say you should be no more than, 8%, 10%, 10? So we're a little above that, but we've always done that because we are now in the woods financially. The good news is this. We predicted that we would have $7 million deficit spending for this year. That was what we said. Last year I stood up here and said we're going to deficit spend 7 this year, right, and everyone, we're going to look at 9 next year. The good news is that our revenues are up, and we're spending about $2 million in savings by trying to do continually cost-cutting measures. So our deficit spending gap is only $2.2 million, at least at this point. We aren't finished. It may be a little worse, but we're tracking pretty well. Even if it goes to $3 million, we're $4 million better than we were. That is great news.
Yes.
So our new deficit, now think if that was $7 million, we'd then only have $12 million in our fund balance. But because we saved, we think we're going to end the year with close to $18 million in our fund balance. We're fiscally strong. Now, let me put another piece in everyone's thinking, that we don't collect taxes till about October. It starts coming in September and October. If we did not have money in our budget of up to $10 million, we would not make payroll probably in September.
That's right.
And we would have to go to the bank and borrow to get payroll, because our payroll probably is around $9 million a month. I mean, think about it, 105 divided by 12. So if we didn't have this money, you authorized, and you have before, for me to go get a loan,
Yes.
if I can't make payroll, to wait for the taxes to come in, which is in October. We have not been able to do, we have not done that in 4 years since we've been here. Now, if we project out, here's 17.8 million. Now, let's say that's our fund balance starting in FY14. We said we're going to deficit spend about 4. Well, guess what? It's $358,000. Pretty close. Pretty close. If we deficit spend, that means we're going to have about a $13.8 million fund balance. That right there is getting to our lower end. That's getting to our lower end. We start going to 12 or 11, and I'm going to be very, very concerned. But let's just project out in 2015. So if I'm standing up here next year, what does it look like? What it looks like is we'd start with a $13.8 million fund balance, and if we deficit spend again $4 million, that's where it's going to be. And by the way, see these costs right here? Our budget's going to go up $2.1 million no matter what we do. So we've got to find $201 million in programs just to stay even. And that's where we'd be in FY15. And I think that's actually... So in summary, and I know I sort of went through that very slowly, is a couple things to remember. Number one, we've reorganized programs to meet the district's needs, and we continually increase our performance. And I think those are really strong statements about the work of the people in this district. Number two, we've maintained fiscal responsibility, and we remain fiscally sound in some very, very austere times with dollars for health care and other items that we can't control. We've positioned ourselves to sustain our programs this year. This budget also keeps our staff, keeps our health insurance, keeps our class size, keeps our program, and we still are well positioned in what we do. But it means that it's a constant effort by everybody. And the bottom line, you know what it is people are doing more with less. I mean, that's just what's happening. But kudos to our folks, they are doing it, and they don't complain, and they just do the work. But we're going to stay on this track and monitor. I feel very good. I think all of us feel really good at where we're at compared to where we could be. More importantly, I think we feel really good about the programs that we offer for the children of Clarke County. We're really strong. I'll open up for questions, and we'll go to next step. Any other questions from? I know that you've heard this several times, and I continue to provide board with additional information. Okay, our timeline. Well, we just did the first one. There's the tentative budget. On the 18th at 6 o'clock, we look to approve the tentative budget. Remember, it says tentative. We then will go through 3 public hearings in May, and we'll post those. We'll publish the budget in the paper. We'll also put information on our website. You'll see a link, and we're going to continue to post and keep people updated so we're as transparent as we can be. And then on June 6th, it'll be a called meeting, because remember, the first Thursday of the month, we are in work session, so we're going to have a called meeting, and at that point, we have to do 2 things. We will have to approve the final budget, which could change, by the way, from the public hearing. That's certainly up to the board. Or we can approve the budget, and then, of course, with the budget, we'd have to approve the millage rate. And that's the responsibility of the board, and that would be on June 6th. Questions?
Questions from the board?
Again, I just want to thank board members for their not only patience, but for their insights as we prepared this budget and for the feedback that we've received along the way. Again, I think all of us ought to be really pleased at where we're at this point in time. Thank you.
Mr. Payne?
Yeah, my question is to Ted, the gentleman that said that he didn't get the notice about our board reporting the budget. Did you send him a notice that he could be here tonight?
We posted it publicly, and
Well, I think you ought to send him a notice, so he will know exactly, so he can be here.
Okay, Dr. Lanu, we down to, we're gonna do the personnel recommendation before we go in for your
Yes,
evaluation.
right. Recommend approval of the personnel recommendations and addendum.
Okay, moved by Mr. Payne, got a second by Dr. Spangler. All in favor? Okay, that's unanimous, vote, okay?
And then recommend we go into executive session for the acquisition, disposal, leasing, appraisal of real estate, or the appointment, employment, compensation, hiring, dismissal, or evaluation of employees, including myself. And 3, pending or potential litigation claims or administrative proceedings, or the settlement of such litigation claims or administrative proceedings.
I need a motion to go into executive session. Moved by Mr. Payne, seconded by Mr. Huff, all in favor? Thank you very much. Did a great job.
Good job. Good job. Good job.